Olivia Rodrigo once said, "Do you get deja vu?" And I say yes about movie castings. In an age where creative opportunity is seemingly at the end of studios' fingertips, they would still choose to spend money on the right name rather than the right actor. A system that I like to call reusable actor syndrome.
Why is Hollywood reusing the same 7 actors for every major film? Did they just give up on looking for new talent?
Is there like an actor shortage? I mean, seriously, give someone else a job.
Always cast the same 20 A-list actors.
Bring back casting unknown actors in movies so I can feel fully immersed again.
Where an actor will be cast in anything from a gothic horror to a rom-com, whether they actually suit the part or not. It's kind of like if you stuck a rabbit in the ocean and told it to swim. It would give it its best shot, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be that one seal who's more suited for the job. And that is an actual thing I wrote in my script, and I feel like I have to say it. I was not high or anything, so I don't know where that came from, but... So what has sparked this recent shift of movie deja vu? Lately, every movie has been followed by the dreaded casting decision. That makes you wonder if we've gone back to the old days of one actor per studio, or whether Jacob Elordi is just that guy. This whole conversation really started picking up heat when rumours about Austin Butler playing Patrick Bateman started to circulate the internet. And then with the Beatles biopic, which felt like the casting directors just went to the most popular films of 2024 and just plucked 1 or 2 men from each of those films, instead of giving it to unknown actors. Take a look at Jacob Elordi, for instance. Since 2020, Jacob Elordi has been in 11 films, 2 shows, and currently has 5 upcoming films, also turning down the request of auditioning for Superman. Now, whilst this number of shows and movies is not crazy, if you have a look at Margot Robbie, Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Austin Butler, and Sydney Sweeney, all these actors have been playing parts in multiple high-profile productions, with some of these people not just being actors, but also being involved in the production and the casting, which in some cases is casting themselves. This doesn't just happen with movies, but also shows. In 2020, Washington Post columnist John Kelly describes the experience of having to pause the TV every time he saw a familiar face, stating, "Have binged a ton of British TV for research over the past 2 weeks. I can now say with absolute authority that there are precisely 10 actors in all of the United Kingdom. The same people are in every show, and Olivia Colman is half of them." While British shows do tend to have a higher overlapping percentage than US, one of the reasons for this is simply that there are less actors in the UK, with the UK having a smaller population and less productions. But is there actually less actors or less named actors? In 2024, 191 films went into production in the UK, with the money going into productions increasing each year. So you would think with over 50,000 equity members alone that there would be enough actors and performers to go around. But this practice of reusing actors is not unique to the UK, but the whole world. So why does this happen, and why does it keep on happening? Now what I'm about to say is probably going to shock you, but one of the main reasons for this, money and recognition and popularity, but money. If I had to explain what a studio is technically doing, it's basically this. Well, you like watching Ryan Gosling, right? Come to our film. Ryan Gosling is singing. He's singing, he's dancing, he's, kissing. He's also kissing. He's also singing. Again, he's singing. You should come to our film. Ryan Gosling's in it. Ryan Gosling's in this film. Come see. Come give us the money. Yeah, you see that poster? Do you want a poster of him right here? Come. He's in our new film. Come. Big names will always bring big audiences. And big audiences bring money. So yes, even though it can be frustrating seeing the casting for Wuthering Heights, the Beatles biopic, the Odyssey, and seeing the same actors again and again, there's no doubt that these films are gonna draw in a massive audience. I know myself, I am definitely gonna be watching some of these films because I wanna see these people and also the film. Another main factor that we cannot dismiss is that these actors are very talented, and more often than not can turn their heads to literally anything. Some of these people are just non-humans. I don't understand how they can transform so many times. But the actor space is a minefield of actors trying to get their little bit of the big Hollywood pie. So whilst yeah, it's perfectly fine for these really famous big named actors to be doing all these big roles, it can sometimes actually even hinder these big actors by doing these roles and also taking the opportunity away from upcoming actors. I also do want to preference that the actors should not really be facing any backlash. I do keep on seeing actors being scrutinized over taking a role or being cast in a film when, you know, technically they are just getting hired for a job. So we shouldn't attack the actors, but we shouldn't attack the casting directors either, as I expect it's really hard being a casting director and making all these decisions, but it does come across sometimes as being a little lazy and unmotivated, with the thoughts of whether they actually care about telling the story and casting the right person, or if they just care about getting big names and audiences in seats. And like Face put it on Reddit, whenever I tell someone, have you seen the new trailer for X, Y, and Z? The first question out of their mouths is, who is in that? I think it's a great example, whether we like to admit it or not, that we always tend to ask that question when it comes to a movie. I know I do. If I see a film, I'm like, oh, I wonder who's in that. And if it is someone we know who has been good and entertained to watch in the past, then it would be more likely that we'll want to go and see it. Like my mum will literally watch anything with Sandra Bullock in, even if she has no idea what's going on. She will still watch it because she loves Sandra Bullock, you know? I expect it's also nowadays a little bit of a parasocial relationship thing. Parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship with either celebrities or imaginary people like movie characters. So in this situation, often seeing an actor on social media, you may feel a sense of comfort or bond with them, if that makes sense. That sounds a bit weird and creepy, but it's not creepy, don't worry. I feel like everyone kind of has it. Not saying that if you see Chris Evans in a movie that you have some sort of deep emotional bond with him, but we have to realise that parasocial relationships due to social media are a lot more present in our society. It is a little creepy, and I'm not saying everyone has a parasocial relationship, so don't fight me. Also, the fact that if the film has a popular person in it, it's probably going to find it a lot easier to get financing. If companies funding the film knows that there's going to be an actor who has a lot of hype around them, they're not taking as much as a risk on the movie as if they would be casting someone unknown. We also have cases where filmmakers will cast the same actors in a multiple of different projects that they're doing. Think Tim Burton, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, Jordan Peele, and not to mention American Horror Story, which is notorious for casting the same people in different seasons. With all these examples of actors playing different characters in different movies made by the same people. So is it a problem, or when does it become one? In the great scheme of things, it really is not the biggest problem in the world by any means, but where it does show problems is more in the creative spaces. The fact is, when discussing these projects, more often than not, these big named productions carry enough interest on their own without having to cast these big named actors. You wouldn't need to necessarily worry about casting a big named actor for a superhero movie or a biopic, because they've already got that dedicated fan base who would want to see it, whether there would be a A-list actor attached or not. Like I went over earlier, it does have an impact on upcoming actors. With Hollywood resorting to using and reusing the same actors, it takes away those opportunities for others to have their chance on the big screen. Like this article states, Hollywood is a notoriously brutal industry, and the ongoing reusage of the same people is only making it harder for new actors to make it in. We're missing out on the chance to see new, talented faces who have so much to offer. If Hollywood continues with this practice, all it does is push the idea that there's no space for actors that aren't already famous, and that can lead to a Hollywood that's inaccessible or unachievable for most. Does there also come a point where you see actors so often that you can't help but see them in their past roles? This happens with a lot of actors who become big after one particular role, which can impact the audiences to not be able to see anything other than them in that role. It's almost a massive hole that a lot of actors have to dig themselves out of by playing a vast variety of characters that are very distinctively different from past projects. I think Austin Butler and Bill Skarsgård have done this really well by completely changing their appearance and overall manners. I mean, don't get me wrong, Austin Butler does get typecast a bit into those like hot, sexy man roles, but I mean, he is a hot, sexy man, so it kind of makes sense. Is that a weird thing to say? Cycling through the same actors in Hollywood is definitely not new at all. There's been articles, forums, people talking about it, newspapers for years. That's why in 2010s we had the faces like Jennifer Lawrence, Emma Stone, Bradley Cooper, Jake Gyllenhaal, Chris Pratt were seen a lot. In the 90s, Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Will Smith, Robert Downey Jr. were sometimes being cast in similar roles. You couldn't escape Keira Knightley in a period drama. So no, it is definitely not new, but the difference is now it's a lot easier for information to spread and people to voice their opinions. So here's a little history lesson I think is quite interesting. Casting directors is a reasonably new craft. During the late 1920s to the early 1940s, actors were signed to individual studios. So casting really depended on whether the actor was available and where they were contracted. This was until the studio system completely collapsed, which was around the 1960s. So with contracts gone, actors essentially became freelancers, in need of someone who knew where talent was and where it was needed. And with television productions on the rise, it birthed a different approach. Marion Dougherty is credited with being the first to create what we see today as the casting director. Before Marion, casting directors were more like organisers, secretaries who put together cattle calls. Marion turned it into a very selective process. She would say to directors, "I will bring in 3 or 4 actors. They will be very different, but they all could play the role." She made a real contribution, and directors loved it. This style quickly became appreciated, and this resulted in directors and producers being able to reach a higher level of artistic excellence and being able to express themselves with having a more variety of actors they could choose from. Marion also went on to give Dustin Hoffman, James Dean, Al Pacino, and a majority of other massive actors their first shots on screen, and in 1972 becoming the first casting director to get a standalone credit at the beginning of a film, instead of at the end. So even though, yeah, we do kind of see the same actors in a lot of productions these days, we have come a massive way from where we were in the 1920s. So what is the overall conclusion of this whole conversation? This definitely isn't new, and it probably won't go away anytime soon. I saw a comment on something saying how it is good that we do have streaming because streaming really does give a lot of new actors a lot of opportunity. I think streaming is a new way that upcoming actors can get their names out there. But like Destiny Lilly said, a casting director at the Telsey office and CSA president says, "We need someone who is great, but also can sell tickets. We're constantly walking the tightrope of art and commerce," which, as harsh as it sounds, I think it is the way Hollywood is hardwired. And that's why when I see a filmmaker cast an unknown, it can be really refreshing. The only thing is, then they get popular and they get famous, and then they get cast in pretty much every movie, and then the cycle begins again. But I do want to say, these actors have all worked very, very hard for their careers, and I understand that. So it's not a hate thing when they're in a production, they've worked for it their whole life. But it's just, what about the little guys? So question in the comments today is, what do you think could improve Hollywood's reusable actor syndrome? This video kind of started out being about Jacob Elordi, and then I don't know where it went, but it's not about Jacob Elordi really. But I do want to say, I think Jacob Elordi playing Frankenstein is going to be a good change, and I'm really excited to see it. So I just wanted to add that in. So thank you so much for watching this video, and follow me on Instagram because I'm a bit more active on there. And I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.